Hi. Today I wanted to tell you just a little bit about my story and particularly about my turning point. Up until recently, my entire life can be described as poverty mentality. And even now, although a lot of things are changing and I'm making new choices and getting new energy, new thinking, as you can imagine, after that many years of it, it's still a work in progress for me. Um, I had a childhood that had a lot of love in it, but it also had a lot of what I call toxicity, dysfunction, a lot of fear-based thinking, poverty mentality, a lot of really old patterns and dramas that happened in my childhood. So, um, when I left home, I had that odd mixture of the love mixed in with all those other things that were not going to serve me in life. Um, Starting from, well, I did get married at the age of 19 and had started having babies right away. But basically, my 20s and a little more maybe is what I call the abyss. And I'm not going to go into that right now, but if you can imagine, if I've called it the abyss, you can imagine. And so from those darkest days, I have pretty much crawled my way up out of that inch by white knuckle inch, uh, spiritually, circumstantially, mentally, emotionally. And I've made progress and I've made decisions in my life. Um, in fact, I'm going to probably share some of those decisions that I made with you later in a completely other video all about decisions. And so I learned little bit by little bit how to change my life, although for the most part it was still extremely challenging, and especially in the money part of things. I was able to make progress in pretty much every area of my life but the money. That kind of eluded me. And it was actually the story of what's happening right now in my life is um, kind of started in 2013. 2013 was a very challenging year for me. I had a lot of physical pain and a lot of emotional pain from two specific situations that were happening at that time. However, even though I had the challenges, I also had come a long ways. And I brought a lot of awareness to those challenges, and I made very deliberate choices about how I was going to respond to those challenges. And I knew that, for example, one of the things that I knew was that I could learn something. Whatever was happening, even though it was very difficult, was something that I could learn from. And the physical pain was actually an interesting challenge because I have been spared a lot of physical. I haven't had a lot of physical pain or doctors for those kinds of things. Most of my challenges are more mental and emotional. But so it was interesting to find out what it was like to have massive physical pain. And I had always wondered how I would meet that kind of challenge, so I guess I found out. And so basically, at the end of 2013, in October, I had a surgery, and which pretty much, thankfully, thank goodness for modern medicine, ended my trial of the physical pain. But it was also a very spiritual thing because it was like getting the rest, my old life, getting surgery too on all my old life. And I was also able to make some decisions about the situation that was causing the emotional pain. And although that didn't get solved completely until the spring of 2014. But the last time that I had a job or was employed was in August of 2013. And I was working for an attorney. I'm trained professionally as a paralegal. And he closed his office. So I wasn't really fired, but it was just he closed his office up and he took a job somewhere else instead of working for himself. And so I didn't really have, I didn't have work for him. But at the time, I didn't go right into getting another job because I was just so sick physically at that time with the other situation. So I was exhausted from 2013. And so I didn't get to be like till about April or May of 2014 where I started to feel like myself again. And I'd actually learned a lot of stuff in 2013, especially about how my body works. And I was, so after passing through the big part of those things, I actually was in a better place. I mean, I've had more energy than I ever had before in my life. I did not have some of the challenges because I'd just come through them. It was kind of this, it turned out to be this turning point, this fulcrum of turning from whatever the past had been until now. So this was May of 2014, about a year and a half ago. And as I sat down in mid-May of 2014, I thought about my life, and I didn't have, small children anymore. I was just in a new part of my life. I was not employed, and I needed to make some decisions. And I realized that I had been learning so many things. The one thing that I hadn't been able to change was my money picture and my money story. And the things that I wanted to do in my life and my dreams, I felt like just were not going to take place unless I learned that picture, unless I made some kind of massive change. And at that time, I was willing to do anything, and I'm kind of a person who prays and talks to God, that kind of thing. So I was talking to God, like in May of 2014, and talking to myself and trying to get my intuition and trying to figure out what I should do. And at that time, I wasn't particularly thinking of working online. I had a wide range of anything that I would do, like if I would go back to work or if I would start an offline business or an online business. Anyway, I finally decided on something, and I embarked on that, and I'm still doing it. It's something that I do to kind of help people heal based on my own challenges. So I started that business in May of 2014. And I learned and I grew from that. And the one thing that was probably different than anything is I knew that I had to focus and persist. I couldn't just start and then let it down, which is a lot of things that I did before on different kind of projects. And so I knew one of the changes that I had to make, that whatever thing I did choose, I had to see it all the way through. And so I knew that was going to be new for me, to persist through the discomfort and to figure out whatever it is I needed to figure out, and not take failure as failure, but take failure as information that I can process and learn something more. And I had to learn to feed myself with all kinds of mindset things. Anyway, plus I was learning, social media, website building, all that kind of thing. This was all before SFM. So I had actually had really great experiences. It was still very tough financially, though. Very, very tough. And was helping my son with some college tuition, and it was just not an easy year financially, 2014 into 2015. But I have felt totally, I don't want to say totally because have been some tough moments, there always are, but I have felt like I'm totally on task for my life. I feel like the things that I'm doing now, the first project that I started, and now that I'm with SFM, this is it. So I feel like totally jazzed about that all the time, and it supports me. And so I'm really grateful for that. So that part, I'm just on a high almost most of the time, except when I'm not, of course, just life. But it's completely a different feeling than, all my life up to this point. And so, I was doing this first project, and in mid-April 2015, I saw a Stuart Ross ad, and so that was, I don't normally listen to those kind of things, and I didn't think I was looking for another direction because I was really invested in my other project. But for some reason, I followed it all the way through. I saw the ad. I signed up for the boot camp. I started listening to those. I got my application. I got my membership. I went through all the modules, and I'm just going. And I actually started a second project to kind of match what I'm doing with more of something that kind of fits more with what I'm doing with SFM. So I have a second business now. And here's the thing. In May of 2014, and supported by what in May of 2015 when I started with SFM, the decision I made was for my future and my finances. I told myself, I will learn this, whether it takes me a week or it takes me 20 years. I don't have anything to lose. I know that's not the case for everybody, but I have nothing to lose. Because, I have my home, I have a basic life that is a pretty good life compared to a lot of people on the planet. I would just have to live, minimally and just wouldn't have a lot of extra things, but I could live the rest of my life that way and just be a cat lady and play video games or something. That wouldn't be so bad. But there'd be all these things locked up inside me. And so what I committed to was myself, my financial future, my belief that I can learn this and I can fail my way to success. That's pretty much what I'm going to do. I will figure this out. And I know that I'm not too good at it, but I appreciate the skills that I've learned. The things that I've learned at SFM have opened more possibilities to me, and it strengthened my first project. And I'm just really excited. I just really feel like when I first started out, I really had to face all those demons of the past and all those poverty mentality things, but it's getting a little easier now. Especially being surrounded with all of you who are like-minded, it's a little easier to see that everybody has gone through things. My story is not that unique, or even the worst story I've ever heard. I've heard lots of really people have gone through much harder things than I've gone through, and they still find a way to reach deep down, figure out their talents, to let the past go, and to keep going forward and keep believing. And to keep believing sounds corny, but that's what I'm going to do. I keep believing and take action. That's important too. So it's not just up in your head or in your heart, but to take action. So that's what I'm learning to do too. So that was my turning point, and I'm just really excited about the future. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.